Head to the Milwaukee Bucks. They've reportedly asked the Spurs permission to interview assistant coach Becky Hammon for their vacant GM position. Hammon, of course, has worked for the Spurs for the past 3 seasons as an assistant. Doyle, which do you think is more likely? The NBA has its first female head coach or the first female general manager?
I think GM is more realistic. And I know there's been some people that say, oh, a woman will never coach in the NBA. It will happen. But I think that Becky has a lot of weight. Obviously played at an extremely high level, was an outstanding player in WNBA, and then has worked for one of the greatest coaches of all time in Greg Popovich. So it will happen eventually. It will definitely happen in our lifetime. But I think the transition to the front office is just going to be easier. Then she may go Pop. Pop was the GM of the Spurs, right? David Robinson gets hurt. He goes, haha. Oh, we have the first pick in the draft. Hey, coach. You're fired. I'm the coach. Like, Becky Hammon may go Pop. Like, that was a genius move by Pop. Drafts Tim Duncan. You have David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and the rest is history. Obviously, Pop knows what he's doing, but he wasn't the coach. He was just the GM, and he was like, yeah, you're fired. And does anybody...
I got myself a new job.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know who that guy's name was. It was actually Bob Hill, who was the head coach at the time. Bob never really resurfaced in the NBA ever again. So I think this is pretty likely that if it's not in Milwaukee, Becky Hammon's going to land somewhere in the front office of another NBA team. I think she's a brilliant, outstanding basketball mind.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like the transition, like you said, is a little bit easier to get into the front office. There are a lot of dynamics and a lot of touchy situations that you have to deal with as a head coach. Not saying that you don't have to deal with that as a GM either, but inside that locker room, things really get gritty, and that whole dynamic could get a little dicey.
It's uncomfortable to talk about because you don't want to offend anybody in any way. And now everyone holds on every word, like, oh, he's sexist. What, a woman can't be coach? No, a woman can certainly be head coach, but that transition to that level, I think that has to take place really with a particular team. Like, I think Becky Hammon would be more fitting to coach the San Antonio Spurs. The coaches, the players know him. She's respected within the organization. That transition to be the head coach there, I think, is almost a welcoming one. For her just to go to another team that she's got no association with the franchise, that will be a harder transition. So it will eventually happen, but I think it almost has to happen systematically, like the males, where assistant coach to head coach. But yeah. I think it's the easier way would be inside that same organization.
Well, yeah, and like you said, she's been under Pop, and hard to beat that, learning from the best of